Pimak Shao said, the reason why Praetorium fights go so fast is because people overgear it. Back when it was relevant, your item level was 80 max. People are usually 130 when they do it now.
That'll be a problem.
That's just like how the scaling works.
Yeah, so you're generally like, they will item sync you down to a specific thing. Depends on the trial, depends on the dungeon. But they'll item level sync you down while they level sync you down. But if you're above that item level threshold, you'll be dumped to it, which is usually very, very strong.
Yeah, so they will sync you down to the correct eye level range, but it will be, if you're high level, it'll be the higher item level of that range. Therefore, we big overgear Praetorium, and Nero, it looks like he trips, falls over, and dies nearly instantly.
Yep, and not even just that. There's also potency bloat, which is what they call potency has been increasing over time for reworked abilities and stuff. So they'll have like basically characters do substantially more damage now, even with the same item level and stuff, than they did previously because they've had mechanics added or potency numbers just bumped up.
Yeah, I mean, you take a level 60 character with correct item level and gear in modern WoW, and you take them into Molten Core, you're gonna slay it. Black Cat. Man, I'm not super far into Heavensward, and I've got to say, all your critiques of Praetorium are vastly improved so quickly. Yep. The storytelling is honestly so engaging. I'm actually dropping another super. I get FF14 veterans warning people about ARR being slow and boring, but like, I sat through classic WoW for hours. ARR was great. Yeah, for me, ARR, outside of the blips, I was there and I was engaged. Like, if it all pacing-wise felt like, for me, some of the pros of like the start at Gridania and some of the bits around Ifrit and Titan and especially Garuda onwards, it would just be an incredible experience to hold up super well today. It's unfortunate about a few of the blips, but for me, those blips weren't a problem in the face of the overall experience. Yep. But there's definitely something to be said for the whole internet saying, this bit can be a bit slow. Trust us, it does get great.
Yeah. To be fair, keep in mind that the vast majority of people who will be veterans and will be saying, it's going to be pretty rough. They had 30% more game.
Yeah.
And that 30% more game wasn't necessarily, it was kind of around the same level as the blips.
Yeah.
So it was substantially worse.
Yeah, when they cut, they knew what to cut. I get the impression.
Yeah, they knew it. And that's why I think whenever people are like, oh, we'll cut more, I'm like, no, don't cut more because they already cut. Which means if they cut more, there's going to be a problem. They need to rework instead of cut.
Precisely.
If they're going to do it.
Perfect example. I got a little bit of joy whenever I went back to my characters at Wineport because I'd helped them get that special rare wine. Yep. Now, that is a part of a bit that's a little bit of a blip during your ARR leveling. But if I didn't spend that time with those characters, I wouldn't have had the satisfying moment of meeting them again, them talking about my accomplishments, and me really feeling like a character in this world where these people know me. And it's that thing, as this is another thing, and I wish I talked about this earlier, the way that people actually speak to your character and address you changes based on what you do. Yeah. Like, by the end of ARR, I command a lot more respect.
Yeah, and, like, not even like, within the realms of an expansion. I haven't actually spoken to them, but there's a place called the Asm Step that it's part of the Stormblood campaign. Great part of the stuff written by Ishikawa as well, fantastic. And I have no context outside of there's NPCs there, or at least an NPC who has different things to say to you based on whether or not you've completed Shadowbringers. And that's like Stormblood content. NPC there changes what they say based on the next expansion, based on whether or not you've done something. And then the Costa del Sol and Wineport stuff specifically is interesting because I don't remember how many times I've went back to Gigaruju, the Lord of Costa del Sol, and been like, all right, there you hit a wee fuck. Can I ask a favor or something? Or, he's asked me to come and help with something. But every time it's like, all right, yeah, we get on well. We're good mates because we did the Costa del Sol thing. Because he did before I was cool. He made me do a load of boring shit. And now he's like, oh yeah,
you got the best wine in the land, motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's good shit, yeah.
So it's like all that stuff works, and it works further and further. So I feel like if you cut it down substantially lower, if you cut it down any further, or remove any more, then the bits that basically strike like a drop kick to the jaw at different parts of different expansions will feel worse because you're not quite as home in the world.
Yeah.
Like, Eorzea feels more like home than Azeroth does at this point in time, substantially.
Because they put the work in.
Yep, and I've got maybe 10% of the playtime.
Yeah, which, by the way, is a lot of playtime.
Oh, yeah.
Which certainly speaks volumes for how much you played WoW during WoD and Legion.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely doesn't speak volumes for how much you played WoW during BFA and Shadowlands.
Definitely not, yep. Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah, on Praetorium, you know, Davixi is saying, once went to get pizza and pray. Nobody noticed. Yeah, I had somebody else say, like, oh, Praetorium is great. You know, I get loads of XP for the amount of time spent, which does seem to be the case in that roulette. And then, you got to do all their chores. Yeah. That's it. Do Praetorium with a Hoover and a cloth nearby and get your chores done. Totally. I mean, it's the sort of thing. I think there's just enough XP per hour that as much as Prey is a meme with people, they're kind of happy enough to just do it.
Well, that's the thing. That's why it's populated. Because they're like, well, Praetorium's a pain in the ass, so no one's going to do it out of choice. But it's a roadblock to players. And that's why it ended up that way in the first place. They wanted also it's substantially more XP than Meridianum, which means people actually want Praetorium. That's Velta said, pray for Prey. You want it because it's more XP for your roulette. But it's the idea of they wanted everyone to make sure Praetorium was filled, so they threw it in the MSQ roulette. And then in order to make people want to do it, they incentivized them correctly, which was a fucking ton of XP and a ton of tomes. But then they ran into the problem of skipping cutscenes, so they made them unskippable. So that's like a whole layer of reasoning, but it all stems with keeping it going. And also, you know, people don't mind if they've got it is a lot of XP. Like, it is a full level at like 70 to 80. It's nuts. That's great.
Yeah, damn indeed.